Welcome to the Heart of Fauquier. I'm your host, Austin Bedrosian, and today we have a pretty awesome guest. We have Ralph Crafts. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to get in touch. It was pretty neat that Matt connected us, and
Right.
so that was pretty neat. We were just talking about things, and he was like, Ralph would be great to be on your show so I can connect the two of you. So I appreciate him doing that, and now we get to talk. So you have done a lot of awesome things in the community that we were, just kind of talking about before we started here. But first of all, if you could tell our audience just who Ralph Crafts is with your family, different things like that, things you like to do at home when you have some spare time, quote unquote.
Well, you have to be warned that at my age, you start me talking about myself, it can be a long, drawn-out story, Austin. But the high points, as I mentioned to you, some of the things I've done that I think were pretty exciting and awesome was I flew jet airplanes in the Marine Corps and got to fly them off aircraft carriers every now and then, and flew with the Forestry Service for a few years after that, and did things like catch arsonists from the back seat of a converted crop duster and turn them into the state police. But on a more rewarding or I guess more high level reward, other things I've been able to do to help families. I was the sole caregiver for my late wife for her last 10 years. So I've experienced a lot with what people have had to deal with physically, with illness, with family support. I've been banged up a few times, like 29 broken bones and major back surgeries. So I know what it's like to get hurt. I know what it's like to really be able to thrive when you have the kind of support you need. So I'm kind of truncating the family part, but my lovely wife and I have now been married, let's see, it'll be 102 months tomorrow. We celebrate month anniversaries on the 27th of each month. So my late wife passed away. Bobby and I met online on OkCupid about a year later. And 4 months later, we were married. So you get to be old and you get to be
no time to waste. You know what you're doing, right?
That's right. And you get to be a newlywed in your 70s. It's really kind of cool. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, and we're in a lot of these things together. You know that I started a kombucha brewing company 11 years ago, and that actually ties back to my late wife. It saved her life, literally.
Wow.
Kept her alive for several more years and turned into a little business where a lot of other people were thriving and seeing health benefits. So the WOW enterprise kind of followed on that very naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And you even said you like to do now a lot of gardening. So not just business and flying airplanes and jets, but you like to stay home sometimes and garden?
Home is where I thrive and prefer to be.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to design our house from scratch. And we found a beautiful piece of property in 2014, just a couple months before we got married. And I used to design houses for a living, and I used to really, really want at some point to have a nice piece of property and design a house the way I wanted it to be. So we've designed the house and established beautiful surroundings where I literally don't want to take a vacation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few things that would draw me away. We harvest all our potable water from the sky. I have a rainwater harvesting system and complete solar system, and we don't allow chemicals on the land. I get to raise most of our food, and I get my hands dirty all the time. It's really great. And you get to be close to the earth, and I get such a thrill out of seeing a seed sprout that I saved from a couple years ago. And as opposed to flying off aircraft carriers, people might yawn, but that's still pretty exciting. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. And I think it's it's just really cool that you mentioned that you don't really want to take a vacation, and I think that's kind of the whole point, is to build a life that you don't need a vacation from. Your life kind of is a vacation. You just live in different places, whether you're at home enjoying things or working over here, working over there, just enjoying every bit of it, not living for 2 weeks.
Right. And also, again, age brings a lot of perspective. And Bobby and I had the opportunity to travel long before we met. I've either lived in or visited all 50 states and 15 different countries. And the last trips we took were before COVID hit. And we did a couple of bareboat charters, the two of us on a 44-foot catamaran in the Bahamas. And did all the navigation, everything, just her as first mate and me as the captain. And it was incredible. And now with the way the world has become,
it's changed.
Just to be able to be quiet. And that's one of the things that I'm finding more and more of an emphasis now. We took a trip for her birthday. She wanted to go to the water on her birthday, which is February 28th. So we decided we're going to go stay 3 nights on Virginia Beach and walk on the beach. It was so incredibly loud in the hotel and walking, and it just hammered me the whole time. When you can lay in your hotel room and the lowest decibel rating is 80 decibels.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And it gets louder when you go into the restaurant or even on the beach. I mean, surf is great, but the surf is over 80 decibels if you're standing right next to it.
Yeah.
And when we go out on our land, it's halfway between Warrenton and Gainesville. It is so quiet. And I realize I don't do well if I don't have some quiet time where your body can just relax. And that's one of the things we're incorporating into what we do here at WOW. We're showing people, hey, if you turn off that TV in the chamber room where we're doing the HBOT, and just be quiet, take a few deep breaths and let yourself kind of drift. It's amazing how you will wake up all on your own in about 25 to 30 minutes. And now the science is really coming out over and over again. The optimal time for a nap is between 20 and 30 minutes. If you sleep longer than 30 minutes, it messes up the biorhythms that your body would normally be able to leverage off. And we're starting to change our protocols at WOW, where you don't have to go into an HBOT dive for a whole hour.
Yeah.
That was the, quote, standard that somehow got established. And I have an opinion on that. It's called insurance. And if you don't do it for at least an hour, you don't get paid by insurance very much. So it's I can leverage off the perspective, and I can present things that I know firsthand have benefited not only me but others, and we can offer that to the community in a very welcoming, relaxing, healing environment.
Right. So now we've started talking about WOW, which is Warrenton Oxygen Wellness, which is right here in town on Carriage Lane over there, right by the hospital.
Right across the street from the main fire station.
Yep. So what all do you actually do there? You've mentioned HBOT and a few different terms. So can you explain what actually happens at WOW?
Sure. HBOT is hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And hyperbaric is a fancy word for higher pressure than normal atmospheric pressure. As we sit here right now, the atmospheric pressure is right around 15 pounds per square inch, just the weight of the atmosphere at our altitude. If you expose a gas, oxygen, nitrogen, whatever, to a pressurized container. The basic law of physics is Henry's law. It says that if you take any liquid and you expose it to a gas and you put that combination in a pressurized environment, you will saturate the liquid with that gas as a function of the pressure and the purity of the gas. And that's what HBOT, it's hyperbaric, higher pressure for oxygen, that allows your body to be saturated at a cellular level with oxygen. It's not the same as taking an oxygen mask and sitting here. It's very analogous to sparkling water. Okay, we could sit here with a glass of water and we could blow bubbles in it, and we're blowing carbon dioxide in, but it really doesn't do much. But if you take water and carbon dioxide and you put it in a pressurized container, okay, those bubbles are in there, they're in solution, and you don't actually see them until you release the pressure and the bubbles come out.
Okay.
But oxygen is an active gas, and it metabolizes. So when your body gets suffused with oxygen in all your cells, it's incredible the power of healing that simple technique brings to bear. I've had major infections, put off dental work longer than I should have, and I was told I'd be on antibiotics for weeks, and I was back taking care of everything in 5 days.
Because of doing
HBOT.
HBOT, okay.
Bobby and I have a chamber in our home that we can go to 2 atmospheres of pressure, which is more than enough for therapeutic benefit. And Bobby used to take thyroid medication all her adult life. She had low thyroid. She quit taking her meds almost 3 years ago, and her doctor has now finally given in to the fact that her thyroid has been healed.
Wow.
And it's never been done before, apparently. We have people at WOW with long COVID who literally couldn't take a deep breath. And after one hour session, this 12, 13-year-old girl, I can take a deep breath. It's the first time in 2 years. We have people who have been suffering with brain fog and horrible pain. And one guy was a veteran, and he couldn't tie his shoes, literally. And 7 months later, he's back to 100%.
Oh my goodness.
So we see this kind of stuff going on over and over again, and all it is providing the body with that type of healing capability. There's no side effects. It's oxygen. So it's kind of hard to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they see the brochure, they see our website, and they see this big chamber, and the first thing a lot of people think of is, oh, that's an MRI. I don't want to be in there. But our chambers are, well, you've seen them. It's an acrylic chamber, so you can see everything. There's a flat screen TV outside the chamber, so you get to play all the shows you want to, which I have no idea how to even do that anymore because I don't have a TV. But where you can roll over and do a plank, you can do sit-ups. I mean,
take a nap, like you mentioned, right? Your 25-minute nap.
That's right. And there's so many people now, Austin, they go in there and say, okay, do you want to watch a show? No, just let me be quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody can call me. Nobody can interrupt me. I'm here. It's peace and quiet while the oxygen is doing its thing. I mean, we had people who were pickleball players who their Achilles was messed up. A guy who was facing double knee surgery. He never had to have the surgery. He won the gold medal at the Winchester tournament last year. And he's in his 60s. So it's one story, one testimonial after
a lot of wows you get to hear,
exactly.
Right? Like Kim's with the name, so.
Exactly. And somebody asked me the other day, it was somebody I hadn't met before at the grocery store, and he said, I'm familiar with your business. He said, but why did you put it in Warrenton? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's not a very big town, and, you know, you could have been making a lot of money. I said, okay, I wanted to do something for the community, and I wanted to make this a special place where Warrenton could be kind of special, because what we're doing with WOW has never been done with any other HBOT centers. We're breaking new ground with the protocols. You can't find a larger chamber made by anyone in the world. These are the largest chambers that are made, and other than big rooms that require you to build a building around them. And we have them deliberately made that size so we can treat children with severe autism. And their parent has to be in there with them. And those chambers allow an adult and a child to be in there with their oxygen masks. And I don't think there's a single person who works at WOW, not one, who hasn't had their tears streaming down their cheeks with some of the responses we get. I mean, when a mother tells their autistic son, I love you, for the first time at the age of 8 or 9, and gets out of the chamber after being totally isolated from anybody and gives our chamber operator a high five, and then the next day hugs him, and everybody's standing there with their jaws hanging open. Okay, that's why we do it, and we wanted Warrenton to be perceived as, hey, this is a special place, and this is a place where people can come and heal with no side effects, with no pressure, and what's the old saying? Think globally, act locally.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what you're doing.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's the same way we did with the airplanes. We thought globally, we acted locally to take people where they needed treatment. So
yeah,
it's a simple process.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we talked about that a little bit before we started filming with the airplanes you were talking about. So since you touched on it again, just for the listeners, just to touch on it. So you said how you acted locally and thought globally. And what is it that you were doing with your airplanes to help out these people?
We flew Angel flights and Veterans Airlift Command missions. We started out at a Cessna, and we had a Beechcraft Baron, which is a twin-engine prop plane. And we were flying people who needed medical care, who either couldn't afford to fly, or they were in certain physical straits where they could not fly commercially. And like a little girl who had a horrible disease that burned her basically from the inside out, and we could not get her on a commercial airplane. So I flew in the Cessna and picked her up at a rural airstrip in the Cessna, and then flew her up to Boston in the Baron. And then we started finding people who needed further trips, or people who needed to fly to Atlanta for cancer treatment, or to Houston to the Anderson Cancer Center. And we got a Honda jet. It was right after Honda started announcing their jets. We got number 62. And nice. We put 1,200 hours of flight time on that airplane in 4 years. And Bobby and I, my wife and I, only took 3 trips ourselves.
That's a lot of flying. That's a lot of flying.
We had so many people. We've got an old logbook that people would write things in about how they couldn't have become cancer-free because they couldn't travel that far. They could not get the treatments they needed. And when we started talking about WOW, and I got enraged about how people were being turned away from using HBOT for things like COVID. And
so people would want to use them elsewhere, like a hospital or something like that, and they're turned down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, Austin, when the COVID crisis first hit, in the first less than 6 months, there were 6 different studies in multiple parts of the world, the US, China, the UK, Israel, France, Russia, Italy, that showed conclusively that HBOT, just hyperbaric oxygen therapy and 2 atmospheres of pressure for 1 hour, would cure COVID with a 95% cure rate on an average of no more than 5 treatments, or dives as we call them. Okay, 5 dives of pure oxygen and your COVID was gone.
Wow.
Okay, that's how powerful a treatment it is. As of today, 3 years later, even after we spent many tens of thousands of dollars petitioning the FDA for what's called an EUA, Emergency Use Authorization, to offer HBOT as an approved treatment for COVID, as of today, it's not allowed.
Still, after 3 years of
Yes.
showing it works.
So there are two HBOT systems, chambers, at the Fauquier Hospital network here. And they are allowed to treat 14 different things, like smoke inhalation and radiation burns, et cetera. Okay. Right now, we have documented at WOW treating 100, I don't remember, 100 to 120 different things. Like, you can't use HBOT to treat arthritis, okay? And our Gary, who works with us, his hands were like this, okay? He's been holding wrenches in his hands all his adult life. And I'll never forget his first dive. I ran his dive, and he's in there, and he waved at me. I picked up the intercom. I said, "What's up?" And he said, "How long have I been in here?" I said, half hour. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, look at this." He said, "When I got in here, I could move my thumb kind of like that, and my fingers hurt." He said, "Now I can do this, and I'm moving my hands like this." He said, "Captain, I couldn't do that before."
And done it for years, probably.
I'm just standing there with my jaw. Really? He said, "Look at this," and he does a dive every, I don't know, couple weeks or so, and all his carpentry skills and everything are at 100%. He has complete dexterity, but people with arthritis are not allowed by FDA regulations to treat people with those kinds of ailments. So if you do get something that is treatable at the hospital, and you get a doctor's order,
right,
you will be charged $1,500 to $2,000 for a 1 hour treatment.
It's funny, I was just going to bring this up. I was going to ask you, it's got to be a fortune, right, to use your stuff at WOW to do these dives? Because I know the answer, but...
We wanted to make it available. We charge a flat rate of $150. And now that we have learned from our own experience, Bobby and I have been doing this now for weeks, and Ryan, our doctor, and several of our other staff have been introducing the 30-minute sessions, and we're charging people like $99 to go in there, and we found you get the same benefit at 30 minutes, especially if you're relaxed and in that same type of nap cycle. People are saying, "Man, this is great. I don't have to spend an hour in there. I can get in and out fast, and I get the same benefit." He said, "What's not to love?" So, no, we're not making a killing. The chambers are. Our equipment is better than anything that you can find at a hospital. I mean, it's that quality, and we wanted to make our Warrenton connection more pronounced, because the chambers are manufactured to our specs in Peru, and they're incredible devices. The same company manufactures chambers all over the world, including, you're going to love this, for camels in the Middle East. Camels. You have hyperbaric chambers that I think cost I don't remember how many millions of dollars.
It's got to be a big chamber for a camel.
Yeah, it is. And you have to be very careful because you either have to have very special equipment or you make sure that you take any metal shoes off, because there are hyperbaric chambers for horses. And if you don't really know what you're doing, you can have very loud booms.
Yes.
So, but I asked the people who made the chambers for the camel, I said, why would they spend that much money? I said, they race the camels and they get tenths or hundredths of a second and increase speed. Okay.
Could mean millions for them, you know, with the race, yeah.
But we're at there's so many aspects to this, Austin. We have this little boy who drowned when he was 2 years old. You might have, I don't know if they told you. Anyway.
No, I'm not familiar with the story.
So they found him floating face down in a pool outside their house in Western Maryland. And he was in intensive care for a month. They kept him on machines, and all the experts said, your little boy is dead, basically. We're keeping his heart and lungs going with machines, but he's completely brain dead. He's not going to suffer. We can't keep him alive like this. You just take him home. Don't try to feed him. Don't try to do anything. Just let him die. They didn't do that. And we met that little boy, it'll be 2 years ago, I guess, this September. And his name's Bryce, and I don't mind saying that because the family puts updates up for him. He's like 5 now. When I met Bryce, he could not focus his eyes. His eyes just kind of went around. His arms were like this. He couldn't talk. Was not responsive at all. And an adult, mom, dad, aunt, would get in that chamber for an hour twice a day. We did 40 dives with that family, and they're real. They're heroes. And they asked us to come in and for their last dive. And when I went in there, Ryan was running the chamber, and Ryan's out there making these goofy faces and waving his arms. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing with Bryce." I said, "What do you mean you're playing with Bryce?" And I leaned over, and he's laughing, and he's waving and responding to things. He's able to watch the TV and stuff. And I said, "When did that happen?" He said, "About halfway through the dives." Okay, and the experts told the family, "You'll never respond to your son. You know, he'll never be emotionally responsive." I slid him out of the chamber, and he goes, "Wee!" And his dad's throwing him up in the air. He's interacting with his siblings. And we have not one of our big chambers, but one of the soft chambers that's set up in our office, like what Bobby and I have. And we arranged for one of those to be installed in their home in Western Maryland, and we trained the family to run it. And Bryce is making progress. Bryce's brain is coming alive, and it's. I mean, to see this little boy with those piercing blue eyes look at you and home in, and he reached out and grabbed Bobby's finger where he couldn't grasp anything, and there's very few times I can talk about Bryce and not just have to get the handkerchief out, because and that little boy is doing it. It's and his family's doing it. It's incredible.
And for them to be told he was, you know, vegetative at one point, and now, you know, he's got life and he's, you know, got something to give. So. And
the same we have the same thing with an older guy. I think he's in his 40s. He's in New Jersey, and he and his buddies, somebody poisoned their drinks at the bar, and Steve was vegetative. He was a big guy in a wheelchair. It brought him all the way down from New Jersey, and he couldn't talk, he couldn't see. he couldn't walk. We'd pick him up, put him in. Halfway through, he looked at one of our nurses. I can see you. And before we finished that 40 dive sequence, will you dance with me?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And not a fast shuffle
No,
or anything,
but
just
around.
standing there. And, you know, those are the kinds of things that 99.9 something percent of the people are never allowed to use. And, that's dangerous for me to get into that type of stuff, but it's wrong. And when there's such overwhelming evidence, such overwhelming resourcefulness that we're allowing people to do on their own, it's incredible. And that's what WOW is all about. And I don't do anything. I mean, I put it together and I used my design skills, and we had a good workflow, and we got a lot of engineering done, and we made sure that our facility there's nobody better, but it's the staff we have there who just, man, we have people on the 4th of July. This woman had what we call a suicide headache. That's a migraine that people have been known, if they don't do something right away, they could really hurt themselves. And man, Ryan was there, and I was his backup. And we did that afternoon, and problem solved.
Wow. And that was this month? So
that was no, last 4th of July.
Okay.
Yeah, last year. Yeah. It's just those things click into mind a lot, and the opportunities that we have, that there's so much ignorance. I have to be careful. Ignorance is
That's not a bad word. It means you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that means you can learn.
Yeah.
But it's the ignorance combined with no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to treat you for COVID, because that's nonsense. And if you want to have your husband treated for COVID, you're going to have to move him, and we're not going to do it. And so he died in 9 days, and that was what triggered Bobby and me to finally put the money together, decide to sell the airplane, and let's do something that really, really works and can make a difference. So we've got kids, and this is a big deal to me, and we still haven't figured out a way to open the minds of the community to this. There are kids out there who are constantly getting hammered physically, and whether it's soccer, whether it's baseball, basketball, especially football, and the documentation now of the brain trauma that accrues. And you can heal brain trauma with hyperbaric oxygen. Okay, there's thousands and thousands of documents and studies that show conclusively how oxygen allows your brain to actually put those traumas aside and heal them. We've got the brain scans from a Vietnam vet whose brain, I mean, those images are up on the wall and WOW now. And he brought them in and showed after a year, he said, look, this is what my brain looked like before HBOT. And you see how this color is different, and this is filled in, and that's filled in. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, this is not possible with anything other than HBOT. So I think about kids who are heading the ball when they're young. I think about the little peewee football players, or just kids that fall off their bike, for crying out loud, and their head slams. Okay, those are the ones that after a while they start getting aches and pains, and they start getting injuries that happen that shouldn't happen. And they can be healed. It doesn't take that long. And if you can cut off the need for long-term drug treatment, if you can cut off the long-term use of painkillers and so forth, we would love to be able to have that kind of opportunity with the schools, because as I said, we're not making a killing. Okay, we're not.
Just to keep things going and serve and
that's it.
Help people. Yeah,
that's it. And eventually, when we get our dive schedule completely full, I've already told everybody works here. We call them wowzers. Okay, and I said, as soon as this organization gets profitable, I said, whatever profits there are coming back to you guys. I will never take money out of the company. I don't need it. I don't want it. You establish the culture. You're the ones that are making a difference in people's lives. So whatever we can do to build a community and build your opportunities to grow, have at it.
Yeah. And it's so cool that we have people like you in our community and in the world, and that's what we need more of, people who are wanting to give back, people who are, have the entrepreneur mind to, create something so that they can give it away even, and not have to worry about the money anymore as much, But thinking more about how the HBOTs work, I'm not sure what you think of this, but in the Bible with like pre-flood conditions, like before the flood happened and how the atmosphere and creation was, it's a lot like what you're talking about, at least what I've learned. And if you look in scripture, like in Genesis, where it talks about people living to be 700, 800, 900 years old. Well, if this is like, if those atmospheric conditions are like, I believe they were before the flood, it was a lot like this, all the time, everywhere around the world. So that it makes so much sense to live so long without modern medicine and to be able to get over these things. And it's pretty amazing. That's kind of what I think of right away, what it must have been like. So.
And the Israelis have released some major studies, and we've seen follow-up studies where they've reversed aging, and they've proven conclusively that hyperbaric oxygen therapy can reverse aging. And it's not so much the years you have in your life, it's the life you have in your years.
Right.
And I'll be 77 in 2 or 3 months, and I can't really think of a way I've slowed down a whole lot. I can pick up 350-pound railroad ties, and I do all the work on our land myself. Okay, I split wood by hand, and I know that I wouldn't be nearly this healthy without the support that system has given us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be even once a month, because we're learning now that once you go through an initial, I don't know what we even call it. It's not even an initial treatment, because every individual responds differently. And that's one of the big differences between us as a health and wellness facility as opposed to a medical facility. Yes, we have a doctor, we have nurses, but we're not writing out a prescription and said, you're going to do this many dyes for this many atmospheres. And, well, no, here's the data, here's the research, here are our own in-the-field experiences for things similar to what you're experiencing. Now, what we could expect you to realize is you might feel less tingling, or you might feel this, but let's do a couple and see how you feel. And let's let you drive that therapy and you drive that protocol, not sit there and have somebody dictate to you.
More like a guide instead of a you do this.
But it's the power, Austin. When you have somebody who is frail, ill, who has been injured, and you've given them the power to drive the healing, rather than being stifled and constrained. It's watching people's expressions and hearing them thrive. Wow, I always wanted to do such and such, but I was told I couldn't do that. And anyway, I
give the ability and power back to people, right?
yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about Mad Magic.
Okay.
So WoW, you started a few years ago, right? It's been when did you start WoW?
A little over 2. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know you said COVID kind of kicked it off for you with, a reason. And then Mad Magic Kombucha over here in Vint Hill is where you're based with the tap room, taste room. How long ago did you start that, and what caused that to happen? I know that it had to do with your late wife and things that you already mentioned, but I want people to hear at least a little bit of that story.
Well, my late wife, Roseanne, she, as a result of life-saving surgery, she only had 18 inches of intestine left. Normally, you get about 22 feet. So for the rest of her life, I had to give her IVs every day. I had to feed her through a catheter in her chest every day. So, and she was severely limited, basically, from the waist down. Her legs didn't work anymore because of nerve damage. And her liver was going to completely fail because of how harsh the nutrients are going directly into the bloodstream. So her liver enzymes, what they call ALT, AST, normal was 35 to 50. Her numbers were 450 to 500. And
it's very different.
The gastro guys were saying, okay, there's nothing that can be done. Her liver's going to fail and she's going to die. And that's probably the one thing that you can say to me to make sure it's going to get done. I just get pretty ticked off, especially when a doctor tells me that now. So I researched and I found this ancient drink. It's been around 2,000 years, since the Ming Dynasty. It had a history of helping with liver health. And then I found out I could get a culture and I could make it myself. And we started making it. And I remember I made my first batch in a 2-gallon glass jar. And I tried some of the commercial stuff. And I took one sip of it and I said, this is really got to be good for me, because this is horrible. Because
it's hard
stuff.
to taste, yeah.
And I made my first batch and I took a little spoon and that's actually not that's kind of like a tart apple cider. And so she started drinking it, I started drinking it. In 90 days all her liver numbers were normal. Okay. And my arthritis eased off. My allergies started going away. I got a really severe case of Lyme disease, and if I hadn't been able to drink 3 pints of my kombucha every day on that doxycycline, it probably would have ruined my gut. So then a couple of neighbors heard about it, and then one of the little stores heard about it, and there we are.
So you didn't even mean for it to turn into a business. It was just for you and your wife, and
that was it. I wasn't intending.
News got out.
I wasn't intending to have a business. And with WOW, it was the same thing. You know, we were but anyway, the kombucha business, I know of 2 or 3 of our kombucha customers within the first 3 years who were taken off the liver transplant list within 3 months after starting to drink our brew. And a lot of people don't realize just how awful the whole certified organic process is, because I have people say, oh yeah, I drink kombucha all the time. I say, what kind? Oh, it's $2.50 a bottle at whatever store. And I said, is it like Synergy or GT or Kavita. Yeah, those are them. I said, look closely at the label. Right underneath the ingredients label, they say they list the probiotic bacteria that they use to make this certified organic health drink. And it's called Bacillus coagulans, and it's followed by GBI-306086, which is the patent number. You can't patent things that occur naturally.
Yeah.
This is made by a biotech laboratory.
Interesting.
And they submitted a letter to the USDA back in August of 2011, and it said, we have thoroughly tested Bacillus coagulans using a team of qualified scientists with these scientific methods, and we have determined that it is GRAS, G-R-A-S, generally recognized as safe for use in foods. Therefore, we claim an exemption from pre-market testing. And that artificial bacteria is used in all those major national brands. And it's even used in a lot of health foods, like these organic chocolates that are supposed to be really good probiotics. And sometimes they get clever. They will do B period coagulants. They always have to have the patent number, though. And it's so Mad Magic is made the same way it was when I started. When you make a new batch, there's this culture on the top. It's called a SCOBY, and it looks like a floppy pancake. And you take a piece of that SCOBY, you put it in the next batch,
and make more and more. Okay.
And now and our SCOBYs, our kombucha, have been in such a pure organic environment for 11 years. It's incredible. The SCOBYs get to be this thick, and we make it in 25-gallon batches. And I have it on tap at home.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Drink a whole pint of grapefruit kombucha every morning before breakfast. But it's flavored with the zest from an organic ruby red grapefruit. There's no juices, no extracts, no added sugars. It's still a pure health drink.
Okay, that's awesome. Cool. So you've had a lot going on, a lot of really cool things. It's just pretty amazing to see, the different things you've done, and then now you're able to turn it into businesses that you focus more on giving back instead of just growing and whatever profits and stuff like that. It's pretty great to hear your stories and the impact you're making. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything you've given back to the community, and just for all you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me ramble on so much.
No, I appreciate it, and I think everyone should definitely check out Warrenton Oxygen Wellness. Learn more about it at the very least. See if it's something that can help you out with what you're dealing with or someone you know. And also check out Mad Magic Kombucha over in Vint Hill. I've gone over there and he's let me, taste test some things. So just to try it out and see what it is. But thank you so much. And we will see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, Austin.